I'm Glenn McGinnis, and welcome to Outburst. October is election month in Canada, and Canadians in 4 provinces and 2 territories will be heading to the polls this week for municipal elections.
I definitely plan on voting. I think municipal elections are just as important as federal ones.
Yeah. Why do you say that?
Mostly because they do the day-to-day details, and those are just as important as the overarching issues, and they take care of the city, which is just as important as the country. I mean, if the cities are all terrible, the country is going to be terrible.
We're also 1 year away from the next scheduled federal election, but that, of course, could happen even sooner. So, with civic pride sweeping the nation, how are Canadians feeling about their democracy?
Canada is already really great, in general, especially compared to other countries.
I think our current system tends to steer people away from getting involved in politics. It seems almost a little bit exclusive.
We live in a part of the world that has a lot free speech, which is a blessing, and we shouldn't take that for granted.
You have civilians and citizens coming forth and being given the chance to have a voice in what policies are being set, in the community. But back home, it's more or less, it's a dilemma of illusions, I would say. They feed us with one concept that, you have the right to bring this forth. You have the right to speak against certain things, but then they kind of suffocate your voice at the same time. So it's more or less a contradictory truth when it comes to democracy back home. So the one here, I would say, is more or less quite visible.
I'm Silas Brown, and today I'm in Halifax, Nova Scotia, talking to a young Ugandan woman who wants to make a difference and become a leader in her new community.
I'm Neria Atwine, second-year student at St. Mary's University. I'm originally from Uganda. I'm just here to study. My mom encouraged me to come to Canada because she was like, if you graduate, the opportunities there are abundant. I love leadership. I love the youth. I love being a millennial. I love being a part of a group that has different insight on certain issues that are affecting our society today, and just being a part of it gives me the thrill. I'm one of the representatives at I Matter, so recently we developed a resolution and a report card that highlights climate action progress and their plan. We came before the council meeting, and presented our resolution on what HRM still needs to do to improve the environment quality, air quality, and more or less just pinpointing their weaknesses, but also their strength in terms of trying to protect HRM, because HRM is quite vulnerable to climate action extremes. We are the future leaders of tomorrow. We're the ones who are going to face the consequences of the policies that are being set today.
57% of young Canadians voted in the last federal election. Turnout from the youngest voters in Canada rose 18% between 2011 and 2015, and the group just ahead of them, aged 24 to 35, also turned out in much higher numbers. This was an unprecedented surge. A recent survey has shown 35% of millennials have discussed politics face-to-face. 19% have discussed politics online. The survey also showed that in terms of barriers to political engagement, 56% of millennials had no time, 31% had no interest, and 31% don't know how.
Transition to renewable energy is huge, student debt is huge, and another very important issue is affordability and cost of housing.
Financial issues. They have a lot of financial commitments, such as post-secondary education, and that is quite a burden for them because it's really expensive, and I don't know, their source of income doesn't counterbalance that.
I feel mental health is a big one, environment, and probably those two.
education and a secure work future.
The honesty, the truth, diversity within our nation. I think politicians at the highest level are, not being always as honest are they with us as they could be.
Sustainability is front and center. So creating a sustainable future for all the future generations.
My name is Zita Cobb, and I am the innkeeper at the Fogo Island Inn. To improve democracy in Canada, we have to take back our economy. And we have to take back our economy in a way that we put communities at the center of it. And if we can get to a place where we have community-centered economies, I think we're going to have citizens that are way more engaged in the fabric of their own lives, and that's how you make a democracy. I think about democracy every day because to me it's about the level of engagement human beings have in their communities. And if people feel that no matter what they do, it doesn't change anything, and everything is owned by something or someone far, far away, what's the point? And I think we can take back our economy, and as we take back our economy, we're going to take back a sense of agency in our own lives. The strength of this country has been our very close relationship with nature, and Canadian culture has emerged out of the human interaction with nature, whether it's off the coast of Newfoundland or the coast of BC or farming in Saskatchewan. That's who we are, that's where our values were formed. And I think it's these bonds with nature that should in fact be our guide for figuring out how to build a democracy and how to build an economy that's responsible to people and to the ecology.
Canadians themselves need ways to advance their own opinions. Maybe there should be more town halls or more, I'm not going to say surveys because I don't feel that they represent much, but more personal contact, let's say, with politicians.
I wish more people were involved in voting. Democracy is a good thing, but it only works when the people are included. So more people need to get involved.
I feel a lot better than I do about U.S. democracy right now, so I guess that's a positive thing.
Right now, when we look to the south, it seems like the Canadian democratic system is actually quite strong. Of course, we need to be doing things to defend against threats to our democracy, like cyber threats and stuff like that, and foreign interference, but by and large I feel pretty happy with our democracy.
I'm not a huge fan of the first past the post system, but or the Senate for that matter, it not being elected. But I feel pretty good about it. I mean, especially when you compare it to the American democracy, we're doing pretty good, I think.
I believe that democracy in Canada is still pretty sound. Our institutions are still alive and well and functioning. There are concerns. Hello, my name is Edward Bertinsky, and I'm a photographic artist. To improve democracy is to make sure that we have solid information about what's happening in our world, that we have good reporting, that the fact-finding in our reading material is actually strong, so that when we're reading stuff and we're cross-referencing to make sure that what we're reading is actually what is happening. For me, I'm trying to gain access into all kinds of different places, and when societies are less democratic, when they become more authoritarian, then it's much harder for me to do the work. So I'm working feverishly now because I feel the world is closing up. So I'm trying to do the work I can do at this point, because in 5 years it might be much harder to go into another country to do the work that I do. The thing that I fear about what's happening south of the border is that there's a lot of untruth being told, and how do we not let that creep into our politics? It's going to become a very, very difficult time. And so the kind of out and out lying about what's happening in the world and events, it really does undermine, I think, democracy, and the social media feeds that we have today circumvent normal ways of editing out that kind of voice, and now this technology has jumped over all of these guidelines and all of these things that protect us from mistruths, and they're now being fed directly into the electorate. In Canada, I still feel that I have the rights that are necessary to live my life the way I want. I don't see anything immediately threatening that. It's a place that when people ask me, where in the world would, knowing all the things that you know and all the things that you've seen, where would you live? And I say, I live in Toronto and I wouldn't change that.
I think comparatively speaking, we're pretty lucky to have the kind of government that we have, because I'm half Venezuelan, so back at home I still have a lot of relatives who live down there, and their government is non-existent. It's very dictatorial, and so for me to look at where I'm living and to compare it to where half my family's living, I'm like, wow, I have the ability to vote, I have the ability to go, have a true say of what's going on in my politics in my own little city. And
especially considering what's going on in the States right now too. That's a huge factor to consider, the two different, the massive difference in governments.
Yeah, and with people like Donald Trump, it just makes you realize that anybody can be involved in politics. So it's I think we're really lucky to be in Canada.
From foreign interference to fairer representation, Canada's electoral system seems to be under constant transformation. Debate in Parliament continues even to this day on who can vote, where they can vote, how voters are identified, and even the day of the week we head to the polls. You can find more information on Canada's current voting legislation and the calls to amend it on our website. One issue that has Canadians particularly fired up is something called electoral reform, changing the way ballots are counted and how winners are decided.
We got elected on a commitment that this upcoming election in 2019 wouldn't be held under the first past the post system.
While Canadian reform has stalled, the first ever municipal experiment using ranked ballots is underway in Ontario. And while this system has been used by political parties to select a leader, it's the first time since the 1950s where any other electoral system besides first past the post has been used by any level of government in Canada.
So ranked ballots is better for democracy because it leads to greater representation of the voters' wishes. You have to get over 50% of the vote in order to be elected. Voters have the opportunity to rank 3 candidates, first, second, and third. And so on election night, when the ballots are tabulated, the candidate with the lowest number of votes will drop off the ballot, and their second and third, the votes on their second and third ballots will be distributed to the other candidates. And this will continue until at least one of the candidates has over 50% of the vote. If we get to 2 candidates and we're not at 50%, then the candidate with the highest number will be elected.
Electoral debates like this are really about fairness, ensuring citizens are represented. But there is another fight on this front as well, the push to recognize race, age, gender, and orientation in our elected officials.
I'm Rhiannon Russell, and I'm in Whitehorse, where a diverse group of potential municipal candidates is getting a politics lesson.
My name is Véronique Iri, and I'm the co-founder of Equal Voice Yukon and the organizer of tonight's event, So You Want to Run for Office. So we have a municipal election coming up throughout the Yukon. Next year there'll be a federal election, and then 2021 when we have a territorial election. That's going to come really quick. So we wanted to host an event to provide resources and stories and inspiration for women who might want to put their names forward for any of these elections, or who are looking for ways to volunteer, or for male allies who want to know how they can support women in politics, whether or not that's through taking up issues, volunteering, or supporting candidates. So we brought some women together, and we created some resources packs for people looking to run, and we had an event where people just shared their stories.
Having thrown my name in and doing all the campaigning, my career, even after being Commissioner of Yukon, knowing many people, I found going door to door, not many people did know me. So I kept wondering, how do you touch people? How do you get to be known?
Well, my mom's a politician. She's on city council. She also ran territorially. So politics are pretty big in my life. And I'm really interested in events that are aimed towards women, because I find it's very important to give women a voice and a role in the community, and it's just something I feel very strongly about.
I'm standing here today because of all of these teachers, the elders, the leaders in our community of the Yukon who've taught me and are my role models.
So what we want to do is encourage women and non-binary folk to put their names forward so that their voices are heard and represented in the political arena. So we're hoping to keep the gender parity we currently have on the Whitehorse Municipal Council for the upcoming election.
What we're doing right now, like talking with people and getting the word out there and actually, communing with everyone really to improve it.
I think greater transparency, some of the decisions that are being made. I think an opportunity for more people to be heard. I think our current system tends to steer people away from getting involved in politics. It seems almost a little bit exclusive, and a lot of people probably don't feel they have a voice, so I'd like to see that expanded.
Inclusion is important for the public as a whole, but I feel as though the younger population was only included when Trudeau was elected as our Prime Minister. Wow, we're doing Premier right now. Forgive me, it's Friday morning and I'm tired. However, it's important to reach out to the younger population for voting. I feel as though a lot of older people are voting, which is good, but we're worried about our future right now and they're getting older, so we're going to be the people affected by decisions made today.
More transparency, of course. I think there are still avenues in which decisions are made behind closed doors, so I think more transparency and more, limitations on executive decisions in that regard.
Allowing access to voters who maybe have a hard time getting out there, better technology in voting to allow people to do it from, the internet perhaps would improve things a bit.
By encouraging everyone to get more and more involved, not just through voting, but also just being engaged in our political system through volunteering on campaigns, for instance, or meeting with our members of parliament or provincial representatives, stuff like that. I mean, voting is very important, and we know that has a big impact on the way government works, but it's also about making sure your voice is heard every day.
Maybe focus more on schools so people get an early start on it, show them that's their right. We get all this stuff, we get roads and stuff, and this is what we have to do for it. Well, you got to vote. You get all this stuff, you got to pay back. And it's just a simple thing to do.
I think people need to be engaged at all levels, not only junior, but also seniors.
I mean, my kids come and ask me, who should I vote for? Well, by that stage, they should already know what's happening.
Yeah, I think there's like a pretty high level of apathy. Canadians are pretty complacent. I don't think that's necessarily the fault of society itself. I think there's various ways in which our political systems are unwelcoming to a lot of newcomers and people not used to them and not exposed to them. And I also think that maybe our current way a political party system seems sort of antiquated and a little out of date with modern sentiments. And I definitely don't think there should be parties on the local level. I think that actually can distract us a lot from particular political issues by schooling people into political camps that really shouldn't be there.
Encouraging more people to get into politics at a younger level, maybe women and from the First Nation communities and that kind of thing.
Hello, I'm Sheila Rogers, and I've been a broadcast journalist at CBC Radio for almost 4 decades now. I'm also the Chancellor of the University of Victoria, which is a great honor. And I think the most cell-altering thing that I've ever done in my life is to have been an honorary witness to the work of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada.
You did a good job.
I think the way we can improve democracy and move forward in real integrity is to honor the promises that we have made to Indigenous people in Canada through our history, through the treaties, but also observing the calls to action. There are 94 of them that the TRC left us with, and they are called calls to action for a reason. I've heard them called recommendations. That's not what they are. They are there to be acted upon, and they are there to make things better, to try to level the playing field so that Indigenous and non-Indigenous people in this country have the same opportunities, the same quality of education, if not the exact same education. I think it's very important that culture is respected. And I think that if we are to really walk in some kind of integrity through the land of this country, it's very, very important that we establish a much better relationship with Indigenous people. And part of that is to understand and really take into ourselves the true history of this country.
What will be the major issues for you in the next federal election?
I think the big issue for a lot of people is going to be to, avoid some of the situations we run into the last few elections around the world with Facebook and, all the rest of it, and just making sure that information is available, open, and accurate more so.
It depends where you are in the country. In Alberta, it'll be oil. In Ontario, well, Doug Ford is not exactly a friend of Trudeau, so it'll be a totally different. It varies. Canada's such a large country.
Prioritizing the youth vote. I don't know. I don't feel motivated, really. I don't feel like people represent what we kind of want.
I personally think, they need to bring more businesses. They need to diversify their economy here. Whoever does that, is going to be more. They would have a better opportunity of winning the next election.
Housing across Canada for people that live on the streets. That would be my concern.
I don't know what I think they're going to be. I know what I'd like them to be, which is things like the equalisation payments and jobs and and immigration.
Well, certainly the economy is always a big issue. The Liberals, are running up bigger deficits than that they campaigned on. So I think the Conservatives are probably going to make that a big issue. But again, like immigration, I think that's a hot button issue, I think, for a lot of Conservative supporters. And I would really hate to see any of our major political parties go down the same road as what we're seeing south of the border.
Water, for example, is another issue. First Nations people have substandard water. The water in many communities is poison. You can't drink it. You have to drink bottled water. I'm sorry, but there are countries that are in the developing world that have the same issues. Here we are, a very rich, powerful country, and the first people of this country are drinking bad water, are facing so many issues, not much being done about it.
Finding the middle class again, and not making Canada more affordable for Canadians again, and making us less like America. I don't want to be anything like America right now. I don't know. A lot of people are upset with Trudeau, but I frankly would rather have 1,000 Trudeaus than another Stephen Harper, personally.
Immigration, and I guess stipulations of how we allow people into Canada will be a hot topic. Whether we should or whether we shouldn't, I think, will be another hot topic. Pipelines, for sure, is going to be another hot topic. And tariffs, I would say, is another one.
Thanks for watching this episode of Outburst on the Cable Public Affairs channel. I'm Glenn McGuinness. Next week, we'll be exploring Canada's options when it comes to opioid addiction. You can find us on social media or send us an email at outburst@cpac.ca. We'd love to hear from you. Here's a little bit of what you'll see next week.
I cannot believe how it's gotten a hold of all the young people. And it's not just young people, but in their 20s and 30s. And it's just destroying people's lives. It's destroying families' lives and even communities. It's just horrific. I can't believe that it's gotten such a hold. And it's so available.
I used to work at Surrey Hospital, so it's affecting the way people look at it. You know what I mean? Not diving into the financial aspect of things, but the way people look at drug abuse, drug users, drug addiction, mental health, things like that. I think the problem with the epidemic is that what's only being reported is things like people dying. So when you look at things like Facebook comments and stuff like that, I'm noticing that people have a very negative reaction to it.
Well, I think all levels of government have to participate. It's just too big for any one level to deal with alone.
Here's a sneak peek of Run for Office, an exclusive documentary coming soon to CPAC.
Racialized communities, black communities, communities that are historically disadvantaged, communities that are living with disabilities, they are not represented here today.
I'm really excited to bring this kind of change, to be a representative for people who look like me, because I didn't have that growing up. People united will never be defeated.
I'm sorry, we're going to have to clear the galleries. Clear the galleries.
Democracy is when you have an election. That's what democracy is. We didn't trample on anyone's rights.
While we're talking about respect for the law, for the judiciary, we have people that are protesting and trying to get into this house. People want to be part of the decisions that are being made. That's what we're talking about.
I know my community has never been at that table, and I'm hoping to change that.
I was expecting to be up against my own fight as an outsider candidate. Now the whole city is up against a fight against whether it has any legitimate government or not.
Does our democracy matter?